Hello, Squirrel Tribe. So I want to bring you some unfortunate news right now. This just happened a few hours ago here in Florida in Marion County. 8 people were killed and between 40 to 45 others have been injured. There's a discrepancy on the numbers here between news stations and outlets that are talking about what has happened. But about a few hours ago, 6:30 a.m. this morning, there was this big crash, this bus that was carrying a bunch of people, right? But these people weren't just regular people. That sounds stupid. These people were headed to work, all right? It's a bus full of workers that were headed to a watermelon field to go work. According to this, let me see if I can show you. It doesn't have the picture of the crash, but you guys can see here just how many first responders have shown up to the scene here. 8 people were killed and dozens injured after a bus carrying migrant workers to a local farm crashed in Florida early Tuesday. Again, that is today, this morning at 6:30. The crash happened in West Marion County. This is according to the Florida Highway Patrol. The accident involved a 2010 International bus transporting workers and a 2001 Ford Ranger truck. This is according to NBC News. The 2 vehicles sideswiped each other, causing the bus to swerve off a local highway, drive through a fence, and flip over. So about 53 people described as migrant workers were on board the bus at the time of the crash. This is again according to the Florida Highway Patrol. They were reportedly being taken to a local watermelon farm to work for a private company at the time of the accident. This is according to the Ocala Star Banner. There was no company name listed on the side of the bus involved in the deadly accident. The owner of the private company was reportedly on the bus at the time of the crash. They were taken to a local hospital following the accident. At least 8 people were critically injured from the accident. 8 people have died. An additional 37 people were also transported to an area hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Cannon Farms, which is located in Dunedin, Florida, said they would be temporary closing because of Tuesday's accident. Will be closed today out of respect to the losses and injuries endured early this morning in the accident that took place to the Olvera Trucking Harvesting Corps. Please pray with us for the families and the loved ones involved in this tragic accident. Now, here is what, and I don't want to use the word interesting, but here is what I find interesting because it's the only way to really phrase this. This was a bus of migrant workers who were being transported to a watermelon farm to work, right? Migrant workers. And as soon as I heard migrant workers, my brain said, wait, we've done this before. We've talked about this before. So I had to go Googling. The very first one that I came up with was at an NBC Los Angeles. I found the article from when this happened, and out of nowhere, let me see if I can show you guys this. Hold on. I took a screenshot of it on my computer. Of course, there's all kinds of crap on my computer here. Here we go. So pull up, come on. So NBC Los Angeles. This is, can y'all see up here? Oh, look, can y'all see at the very top? NBC Los Angeles. It says their server was down, which is also an interesting thing right now. Their online server is down for NBC News Los Angeles. Their online server is down, which I thought was interesting because I was trying to find a story that relates directly to the story I just told you about that happened today. So let me see if I can pull the good old interwebs back up here. Where is it? Okay, this is from The Hill, and this was in February 23rd. On February 23rd, 8 people were killed traveling in a van, and the driver, so 7 farm workers and a driver of a pickup or truck were killed Friday in a head-on crash in a farming area in Central California. This was in Madera. We talked about this when it happened. They were farm workers. They were, again, migrant farm workers that were killed in this crash. So, okay, so that's 2 this year. So then I saw something that said something about Oregon, and I was like, what happened in Oregon? This was in January of last year, but it was a box truck crossed a center line and peeled off the side of a bus carrying 15 migrant workers to a job site in northern New York. And then there were every passenger in a window seat on the driver's side of the bus died. 6 men from Mexico went home in caskets. 9 others from Mexico and Venezuela survived. Some climbing through a hole in the side of the bus to see 3 friends who had been ejected and fatally injured. And here's kind of sort of a view of the accident when that one happened. This was January of 2023, but there are so many articles that I came across of migrant workers in buses, whether it's a small travel van like whatever those are called, or a bigger bus or a box truck. These workers have been killed on their way to farms. And I don't like to think of things in a sense of I mean, it is ironic, though. You have to think it is ironic. It's all migrant workers, and they were all headed to work on different farms, which is crazy. So this one in January in New York was actually they were being transported to put up a solar farm. Their hotel rooms were paid for, their food was paid for, everything was paid for. They were being transported to work on a solar farm in New York. Some put up solar panels somewhere in New York. The ones today in Marion County, Florida, we're going to pick watermelons. And I don't know if you guys saw this. Again, my brain does the most squirreliest things in the history of brains. But if you guys saw it, I think it was on my husband's channel on Kevin247. Maybe it was on SquirrelTribe Life. We went to Orlando just a week or two ago. My daughter had a school event, so we followed her to Orlando because she was driving on a bus. She was on a bus. And I'm like, no, we're following this bus. I don't trust those big, big buses. You keep seeing too often how there are accidents that happen with school kids in these travel buses. And I couldn't let her go without us being near her because it was giving me anxiety. Not helicopter parent, but wanting to make sure that my child was safe on her first overnight trip away from us with like a school or whatever, right? But while we were in Orlando, on our way back in, honestly, close to Ocala, Florida, there was a trailer from a semi-truck on the side of the road, and it looked like it had been in flames at some point, although it didn't make sense because the ground around it didn't look like it had been on fire, but the back part of this trailer, this 53-foot trailer, it was wide open and it was pitch black like it had burned. And there were tons of watermelons falling out of this thing that had clearly been maybe on fire. They were all pitch black. It made absolutely no sense just sitting here on the side of the road. And the irony of that, and then today in Marion County, Florida, the guys were on their way to a watermelon farm to help pick watermelons, and then their truck or their van is sideswiped, and then 8 of them die. It's just, I don't know what to call that when you see all these little things and they all somehow weirdly connect. I know, even the conspiracy theorists in me can't possibly think that there's any connection between all of these, but all 3 of these accidents were because some other truck sideswiped or bumped into one of these vans or trucks or whatever, carrying these migrant workers to a farm to work. And every single time there were deaths in all of these, and it was always the same exact scenario. On the way to work, sideswiped or bumped by another single person vehicle coming a different direction, and then all this tragedy. Again, I don't like to think of things but y'all know I am optimistically cynical or cynically optimistic. I'm still not quite sure where to put that one, but I see these things and I think to myself, maybe there's no specific thing causing this, but what if it's like forces, not the powers that be, even though I put nothing beyond the powers that be, but what if there's some weird force behind everything? Because you have to think, why do things happen the way they do? What causes these things to happen? And when you start to see, I don't even know if you can call it a pattern, because it's been, I've come across 4 or 5 of these over the last year and a half, but they are all exactly the same. Migrant workers on a bus headed to a farm. They weren't headed to anywhere else. They're always headed to some sort of farm. A solar farm is still a farm. And, a watermelon farm. The other one was, what was the one in California? What kind of farm was it? I don't remember what kind of farm it was. And I don't know if it says here. I'm sorry, I'm looking at vineyards, tomatoes, garlic, and asparagus and other vegetables. Okay, so they were going to a farm for vegetables, but y'all understand the irony behind it all. And now my brain is like, you got to pay attention to what is happening in the news or what they're not telling you. A lot of people live near farms, and maybe on local news you've seen stuff like this. I would love it if you have seen anything along these lines in your local community that hasn't made it to, big headlines like this. This one, because there were so many people on that bus, 8 immediate deaths. You've got however many other injured being transported to hospitals. It has shut down a major freeway, I-40, I think it said. It's going to be a big deal. It made it to headlines. Not all of them will. If you happen to live somewhere where you have seen in the headlines in the last year or two, something along the lines of migrant workers killed on the way to some sort of farm, very specific, I would love for you to leave it in the comments, because I want to know if there's more of this happening. And again, it's a random person that happens to cause the whole accident. From each one of these instances, it doesn't seem like it is the driver of the migrants. It is the driver of the other vehicle coming at them who happens to just weirdly bump into them and cause this huge accident. Y'all know how my brain works. I want to say that it's all accidental and none of these things connect, but man, it's very hard for me given the attitude towards all of the immigration issues we are having lately in the last 2, 3, 4 years, all of the immigration issues we've been having, for then this to also be something that has happened numerous times in the last few years. And I know there's other regular car accidents out there happening, everything else, but I'm telling you just the way my brain works, migrants on a bus or a van, a lot of people headed to a farm, and suddenly single solo driver runs them off the road, and then there's deaths. That's just how my brain works, y'all. Just how my brain works. I see it and I put it all together and I'm like, it could be just, super coincidental, but at the same time, it's a little crazy. Is there anything else to this article? I saw the video on YouTube. The first thing when I pulled up YouTube earlier, one of the videos that was showing was the fact that there was this bus accident. And here we go. I don't think I can really show you because it's on NBC News's. Oh, here we go. But I can show you the visual of it. You can kind of see the visual here. So that is the bus that is overturned that had the migrant workers in it. 8 of them killed, dozens injured, Florida bus crash. There's going to be more information obviously on NBC News and these other news stations on YouTube. If you want to see the actual videos of it, you can. I would say go that direction. But it is something I'll be keeping an eye on in general on a daily. I'll be pulling up, Google, DuckDuckGo. I'll be pulling up random other search engines and trying to see if I can see or find where this has happened anywhere else from here on out, just out of curiosity. Exactly what's going on, because you have to think we're having so many issues already with labor issues, with food prices, with they're telling us that we're going to have shortages possibly of fresh fruits and vegetables and meat because of all these things we've had issues with, whether it was bird flu. Now, they're saying that the cows have it, the milk has it, and everything else. Little things like this, I think, kind of add to those issues when you have your entire workforce, not the entire probably, but you have a massive portion of your workforce who is now technically out for the count because of some tragic accident that will put a delay on things. So now if you see a shortage, I have to do this every time because it's not really a shortage, it's more of a supply issue, right? If you see a supply issue of watermelon in the Florida area, then you'll know it's possibly because of this, because the workers that were headed there, then the place shuts down for the day because of all the issues. Who knows if it's going to stay shut down longer than that because the person who owns it was also on the bus. Lots of things happening there. I think we're going to see more of that than anything this summer. We're going to see more supply issues because of lack of workers than we will see because of lack of product. But the products that do show up on shelves, we're going to see higher prices. For the longest time, we were worried about there not being enough to go around, when now there's enough to go around, but the price of it makes it harder for so many people to afford the stuff that's out there these days. Inflation is a biatch, right? But anyway, I know this is completely random, but I saw this, my brain started firing, and I just wanted to bring it to you because y'all think a lot like I do, and it's hard to see things that seem to have connections and ignore it. You know what I mean? So again, I'll be looking for more to see if anything else like this happens. Again, migrant workers headed to a farm and deaths involved. It feels like a Final Destination kind of movie, but it's not, but And again, if you have seen anything like this where you live, I would love you guys to leave a comment so I can look into that as well and try to see if there is any sort of connection to anything. I just like trying to connect the dots and seeing if there is anything to connect to begin with. So thank you guys for letting me just kind of have this with y'all. I appreciate it immensely. Squirrel Tribe, I will be back in just a little bit with more. I have plenty of things to talk to y'all about today, but I wanted to make this its own little thing. I love you. Thank you for being here. See you later. Bye.